The headlines are skewed in their favor by virtue of the way they're written, or, more importantly, by virtue of what is left out of those headlines. When was the last time you saw anything on Fast and Furious? If you're watching a major network, you know how big Kim Kardashian's bottom has gotten, but you haven't heard anything about 4 dead Americans in Benghazi. And that's by design. That's how propaganda machines work. And unfortunately, that's the state of the U.S. media today. So it's great to have you here listening to the Armed American Radio Network, where we're talking to you about the right to keep and bear arms and its importance to your freedoms in this country. Are you willing to give up your freedoms? There are millions who want to take them from you. They don't like you. A psychopath goes on a rampage in California, and what happens? A father of one of the victims. I'm a father. I have a 9-year-old little boy and an 11-year-old little girl. I can't imagine standing up at a podium, getting political as a parent under those conditions. I can't imagine it. He's the only one that has that I'm aware of. But boy, I'll tell you what, the enemies of freedom jumped all over that, didn't they? And will continue to exploit that tragedy, call you a criminal, place the blame for what happened in California and Newtown and Aurora on your back, and ignore the similarities between every single one of the psychopaths who pulled the trigger, because they don't want you to know the truth. But 100 plus million of you are smarter than they are, and we look forward to November.
This segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by the Gun Owners of America, America's no-compromise gun lobby. Become a member today. Visit gunowners.org. Join them, folks. I did. Welcome back.
Wow, what great timing with that rejoiner, gunowners.org.
Thank you.
Did you do that, Sean? Was that?
Of course.
Or is that just in the? Was that magically in the rotation?
I put that. Well, it's in the rotation, but I was the one that put it in the rotation.
You rotated it. Larry Pratt, who is one of my favorite guests of all time, is the executive director of the Gun Owners of America. Joins me right now. Larry, always fun to have you here. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm doing very well, and it sounds like you're having a good time as well.
Man, that's because we knew you were coming in here. And the lead is so fun because we have so much fun with you. You know, some of the news that's breaking, let's start with California.
Let's start with some good news out of Texas.
Do it. Let's do it.
The cruise missile continues to hit enemy bastions, blowing them sky high. And Cruz is probably one of the few people who will ever have the opportunity to defeat the same opponent twice. Once when Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst ran for the Senate nomination that Cruz came out of nowhere to win. He had a statewide office, but he hadn't earned it by campaigning. It was an appointed office. So my guess is that his name ID initially was quite low. But when he and his dad started going places and speaking, and the only difference between Senator Cruz and Pastor Cruz is that Pastor Cruz has a Cuban accent. But man, that apple didn't fall and roll anywhere away from the tree.
Yeah, that's great stuff. You want to enlighten listeners specifically about what we're talking about?
Cruz supported, I think the guy's name is State Senator Patrick.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead. You're right.
Senator
for lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
Right.
And he beat Dewhurst, and now Dewhurst is out of a job after Ted Cruz had beat him for the Senate nomination back in the 12 elections. So Cruz has been coming on pretty strong. He also backed another candidate for AG who won. Name escapes me, but if Ted Cruz is backing him, I think we're all going to be very happy with what that AG does.
Yeah. You know, he also just won a big straw poll too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that wasn't maybe a mainline Republican group. It was a conservative Republican group. But I think the significant thing is that in the past, similar venues would produce maybe a second or third place showing for Cruz. Mm-hmm. But now he seems to be like a real cruise missile. He's on his way to the top. I think more and more people are looking at him and saying, man, a guy that fights, a guy that doesn't back down, a guy that does what he said he would do in his campaign. Let's have some more of that.
You know what I would love to see in some campaign ads is the video of him facing down Feinstein, staring at her, asking her questions about the Constitution that she couldn't answer, and he looked at her and smiled.
Yeah, it was great.
Until she got so flustered she had to attack him, which is always the case when they lose an argument. Larry, would you agree with me that Obama is the best thing that's happened to true conservatism in this country, maybe since the days of Ronald Reagan?
I think it's awakened a lot of people that there really is something wrong in our country, and the president is just so narcissistic. And when this killer went on the rampage, what was it now, just a little over a week ago,
right.
When I read some of the excerpts of his declaration, proclamation, whatever, 41-page statement, the narcissism of that young man was just stunning.
Yeah.
And he, frankly, it did kind of remind me of the president. For one thing, from what I can gather, the president lives in a bubble, and he really doesn't have input from Realville. For instance, Secretary of State John Kerry was able to make a rather stunning statement about the foreign policy successes, including Libya and some other disasters like that, and you wonder, where are these people living? Well, the fact is they don't apparently get input from anybody who has any connection with reality. They're in a bubble of ideologues, people who screen out what's really happening, and as a result, they just don't get it. They really are that out of it. It's stunning.
It's absolutely frightening. But to what you're talking about, the videotapes of the shooter in California.
Yes.
You know, it absolutely amazing how magnificent he felt he was before he went on a murderous rampage. 3 victims killed with a knife, 3 victims with a gun. Before he sent himself
I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear that from the mainstream media. You heard that on Armed American Radio, but you didn't hear that from Brian.
No, you didn't. Oh, and he also used a machete and a hammer.
A hammer, isn't that the weapon that's used to kill more people than all rifles combined in America every year, according to the FBI?
Yep.
I kind of think you're right there.
I didn't. I had to guess at that. I guessed. I've never heard that on the news. Isn't that the case, though?
Well, eventually, maybe these people are going to get smoked. And the way, you were referring to the way Cruz handled Feinstein.
Oh, it was brilliant.
And
It's
I
absolutely
heard
beautiful.
about and went online and got his interview with Leno. Now, Leno was civil, but he was coming from left field. And he kept putting these questions to Cruz, and Cruz kept answering in such a way that he politely and gently pointed out how wrong Leno was. Without being offensive, without doing a victory lap. And I thought, you know what? If this guy's debating Hillary Clinton or anybody else that the Democrats throw up in a presidential debate, they're toast.
Hey, I saw a Prius storm chasing the other day.
You know, I got to tell you something funny. I saw, honest to goodness, Larry, are you?
I mean, he was actually storm chasing with a sticker and everything.
It's like a chihuahua chasing a bull.
Larry, you're gonna love this. Now, I gotta go here with you. You know, my neighborhood had a neighborhood garage sale that they advertise. You know, and the people, the neighbors put their stuff out to sell, and I had some stuff I needed to off. You know, I've got about 6 Weber grills, and I hate to part with a Weber grill, Larry, but a guy sold it to a guy who pulled up in a Prius and had to go home and get a pickup truck. But he had a pickup truck, and he came back with it. I had to say, I said, I didn't know how you were going to take a Weber grill. I didn't know somebody driving a Prius would love that Weber grill. But God bless you for coming back with a truck to pick the thing up.
And now he came back with a real car.
Yeah. He pulled up. Hey, is that grill for sale? It is. I can't take it in my Prius, but I got a truck. I'll pick it. I'll take it. I'll come back and pick it up if you just leave it over there. Sold, brother. I love you.
Did he tell you what he was going to cook on the grill?
Oh, we had a great conversation. Yeah, I gave him some barbecue rub. We wound up having a great conversation when he came back with the truck.
Probably cooked some barbecue and then sprinkled arugula over it.
He opened up a Bobby Flay cookbook, I betcha. We could have fun with this. It's not the third hour.
You go, I stay.
But I don't want to. I've been there, seen it. It's pretty. Bye.
Wow.
It's pretty, but they're crazy. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day. The weather's nice.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, the weather is nice. Yeah.
Especially
They
on the
can
west
have it.
side of the mountains.
Yeah, they can have it. It is a pretty place, and a lot of listeners out there in California right now. I'm going to get some emails. Are going to be fun to read next week. I can promise you.
Hey, listen, they know the problems they face,
Sure, they do.
and many of them are leaving.
Well,
Yep.
I've got about 138 unread emails in here, and I bet you if I go through those, I'm going to find something to that effect, because I do get emails to that effect, Larry.
Oh,
You know,
it's horrible.
Yeah.
The gun owners are just being hammered out there, and these are, I would wager, some of the more productive members of any state society, and they're being told they're not welcome, same as Governor Cuomo told gun owners up in New York. And you know what? A whole lot of gun companies in the next year, 2, 3, are saying, I'm out of here, I'm going down to Alabama, which is one of the reddest states in the country, and they're welcoming us in Alabama or
Right.
Tennessee or wherever.
South Carolina has picked up a couple. Texas is wooing them. I know
Oh,
Georgia's
yes.
wooing them, and Tennessee as well. Larry, it's really something to see, and you're going to see a mass exodus, here over time as time goes by. It'll be really fascinating to see what happens in New York, Connecticut, and so forth. California, we have a mass murderer. Everyone has seen the tapes. You had mentioned it in the previous segment. This guy thought he was God's magnificent gift to women. And as a result, when he found out he wasn't, he went on a killing spree.
Right.
He's a sick psychopath, no question about it.
Well, his parents had never, I'll bet he never had his backside warmed once.
Thank you. I'm glad someone finally said it.
Well, no, he did, because I'm sure his BMW had seat warmers.
I stand corrected.
Remember who you're dealing with here. We could go a step further and it's a free BMW, because I guarantee he wasn't paying for it. And his parents weren't wealthy enough for him. He was mad at his mother for not remarrying
Well, yeah,
a
because
wealthier
his dad
individual.
had been quite wealthy and then hit a speed bump on the way to continuing wealth, and I wouldn't say they were impoverished, but
Sure.
they certainly didn't have the megabucks that they had at one point. And I think that's what contributed to the little stinker's resentment. But the thing that I want everybody to take away, nobody had a gun who was being targeted. The sheriff of that county has only given a little over 50 concealed carry permits the whole time he's been sheriff. And I'll just bet you that there might be some coincidence with the size of the contribution to the sheriff's campaign.
Yeah, David Codria mentioned that last week. There's people are looking into that. Now, I don't know how far they're going to get, but I can assure you there's family members, relatives, and politically well-connected who are on that list of 50 out of all of them. I think the actual number is 52.
I'll take that.
I think it was 52. But going back to now, we have a father of a murdered child. Horrible. I mean, my God, I can't. Yeah, I'm a father myself. It's difficult to even comprehend. But would stand up now and he's blaming me. I'm an NRA member. He's blaming
that's the problem
you.
of the education he gave his kid. It's always somebody else's fault.
Larry, I've not heard once, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've not heard any blame by him being placed on the shooter. Not one time has the murderer been blamed coming out of his mouth.
Right. He was a dirty, rotten, little self-loving monster, and nobody ever put him over a knee and said, spank, spank, spank.